Hey, it's Anna. Welcome back to my channel. I have been reading again since August of 2022. So in those almost 10 months, I have come up with only 5 books that I really have disliked and not enjoyed. So today I wanted to talk about these books, but then, because I don't want this to be a completely negative video, I want to give you alternatives to these books that you can enjoy, because I feel like a lot of people read these books and talk about these books, and I don't necessarily want you to get into a situation where you start one of these books and then aren't enjoying yourself. So let's get started. The first is Where the Crawdads Sing. And besides the author being extremely controversial for some of their actions abroad, I just did not like this book at all. This is definitely more of a character-driven story. I was definitely suckered into reading this because Taylor Swift made a song for the movie. In my opinion, the movie is better than the book because the movie cuts out like 150 pages, so like this much of the book. A decent portion of the book the movie cuts out, where it's just really talking about Kaya growing up in the swamp. To me, I just did not really care about the characters in this book. Yes, it does get a little twisty. Yes, there's a trial case, all of that. However, overall, I did not like this book. It was too much in the swamp, took so long to get through, not very fast paced. So instead of this book, I actually have 2 recommendations. One of the recommendations is technically YA, so I feel like even though this is technically an adult book, it still matches the YA vibes because it's not as violent. I feel like I have a true thriller that can also be compared to this, but obviously that's like a step up, so I'm going to talk about both of those. My recommendation that I feel like could be similar to Where the Crawdads Sing, but is like a million steps up, is Firekeeper's Daughter. This follows Donis as she starts her own investigation with some help into why drugs are coming into her community at an alarming rate and why people are turning up dead. I felt like this was twisty, it was compelling, it's written so well, in my opinion. I feel like you still get that character-driven story following Donis, but you have a lot more plot that overall makes it better. And with Where the Crawdads Sing, right, we know that the main character is put on trial. Donis is not put on trial, but since she has to investigate with her own community, I feel like she has a lot of those same feelings. The next book that I feel like is a huge step up from Where the Crawdads Sing definitely gets a little more into the thriller realm that I feel like with Where the Crawdads Sing, you know, it's a little twisty, there's tension. This book I feel like really elevates it, which is The Butcher and the Wren. We're following Wren, who's a medical examiner, trying to figure out what's happening with the serial killer. So you still get those more Where the Crawdads Sing has those trial vibes. You still get that kind of behind the scenes look into the medical examiner world, but we're following a serial killer, whereas Where the Crawdads Sing, there's only one murder that they're discussing. So again, I feel like this is an elevation. I would highly recommend these 2 over Where the Crawdads Sing any day. Next, we have My Favorite Half Night Stand by Christina Lauren. I am really surprised that this came out in the same year as Love in Other Words, because I feel like Love in Other Words is very different from this. It's a step up. I rated this a 2-star. Love in Other Words was a 4.5 for me. My Favorite Half Night Stand, we follow Millie as she and her group of guy friends make dating profiles, and she doesn't like hers, and then she ends up catfishing one of her best friends. It's just really confusing. I didn't really care about the characters. I felt like they were written a little bit annoyingly. So I have 2 recommendations for this. One of the recommendations stays with Christina Lauren. That is still kind of that like rom-com feel that this was trying to be but wasn't to me. And then I also have another recommendation where if you want to stay in this sort of academic setting that the book takes place in, that you should pick up. Instead of picking up My Favorite Half Night Stand for those rom-com vibes, I would definitely recommend The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren instead. We follow Olive as she takes her twin sister's place on her twin sister's honeymoon. This is because the twin sister and the majority of the wedding ate at a seafood buffet, so people got sick. So who is Olive going on the honeymoon with? Ethan, who is her twin's husband's brother. So her now brother-in-law. They are going together to the honeymoon, and it's all about their time there. You do get a lot of other drama, other plot lines in this rom-com vibey book. So I would still recommend Christina Lauren as an author, My Favorite Half Night Stand was just kind of a big miss for me. This was a big hit for me. Now, The Unhoneymooners doesn't have that academic vibe, which some people really like. So I would recommend Love on the Brain by Allie Hazelwood. You don't need to read The Love Hypothesis before this. I did, and I liked Love on the Brain better than Love Hypothesis. I think both are good if you're looking for that academic setting type romance vibe. Both books are unrealistic, but I feel like The Love Hypothesis was a bit more unrealistic, whereas Love on the Brain, I'd actually talked to some of my friends in academia who had also read this book, and they felt like they were able to connect better with Love on the Brain versus The Love Hypothesis. So Love on the Brain, we follow B. Koenigswasser as she enters a lab to try to build this helmet for NASA. And of course, the other person on her team is Levi, her almost kind of like, I wouldn't say rival, but she just got very weird vibes from him when she was in grad school. So I think that academic vibe, their friendship developing, right? In My Favorite Half Night Stand, we already have a friendship between the two main characters. In Love on the Brain, it's something completely different, which I think is honestly better. I don't like the whole catfishing vibes of My Favorite Half Night Stand. To be honest, in Love on the Brain, there are some like hidden identities, big reveals in the book, so I still think it's similar to My Favorite Half Night Stand, but again, definitely elevated. So either go with The Unhoneymooners or Love on the Brain, but I would skip My Favorite Half Night Stand. An Abundance of Catherines. Now, I'm not like a John Green hater. I've read his other books, and I just really did not like An Abundance of Catherine. You can tell the language in here is outdated. We follow Colin Singleton as he goes on like a road trip to try to discover himself. So it's supposed to be this like coming of age, he just graduated type of story. But again, like I just did not care about any of the characters. I felt like a lot of it was shallow. I didn't like some of the wording used in this book. So if you're looking for that, coming of age self-discovery with a bit of romance, I feel like I have a really good recommendation for you, which is How to Excavate a Heart. It is a sapphic YA romance, holiday related because one of the main characters is Jewish. So it's not a Christmas book. I think sometimes it's been advertised like that, but it's not that. We follow Shani as she is going to spend a winter doing an internship at one of the Smithsonian museums, and Shani and her mom are driving into town and they almost hit this girl with their car. And now this girl starts popping up again and again and again. So Shani starts to explore her own sexualities and feelings about school, about her life, along with how she is feeling about May, which is the girl that they almost hit. So again, I feel like this does give you that self-discovery. It does give you that romance. It's still in that YA category, same with An Abundance of Catherines. I feel like the characters are better written. And I know one of the things that I remember about An Abundance of Catherine is some of the side characters play pretty big roles. And I feel like the side characters in this book also really get highlighted well. So there's a lot of depth to this book. So instead of picking up Abundance of Catherines, I would definitely recommend How to Excavate a Heart. I feel like you get much better vibes from this book. And also, I like the diversity in this book a lot better than An Abundance of Catherines. I feel like of all the books that I've shown so far, this fourth book, Holding Up the Universe, is the one that I feel like can actually be harmful for people reading it. I personally struggled with my weight, and reading this book, I was like, wow, I'm really glad I'm in a better place with my weight because this book definitely could have wrecked me. So we follow Libby, who was dubbed the fattest teen in America when she had to be cut out of her house and craned out of there because she was having a panic attack and she couldn't get up. And we also meet Jack, who has face blindness. And the two meet because they do this game called Fat Girl Rodeo, where Jack and his friends try to hold on to a fat girl as long as they can. And honestly, Libby punches him in the face, and that part I was happy for. But this book just, I felt like was not healthy in the way that it was dealing with like body image and relationships with food and everything like that. So I feel like instead of reading a book where you're looking for a plus size character, but I feel like this doesn't have really good representation, I have some other books that I feel like have better plus size representation and honestly, healthier relationships than this has. My first two recommendations are in the same series, and I believe they're technically adult books, but they're written by Disney, so I feel like they're not very like spicy at all. The third recommendation I have, instead of Holding Up the Universe, has a little bit more spice. So the recommendations are By the Book and If the Shoe Fits. They're part of this Meant to Be series where authors are writing retold fairy tales. Both If the Shoe Fits and By the Book are written by plus size women. By the Book is written by a plus size woman of color. Both the main characters are plus size and have, you know, a lot healthier relationships because the authors take the classic stories, and If the Shoe Fits, it's Cinderella, and By the Book, it's Beauty and the Beast. They take these classic stories, and I feel like they take a lot of the negative parts of the classic stories and spin them into something more positive, more uplifting that I really appreciated while being extremely sweet. If the Shoe Fits, I gave a 4.5 out of 5 stars. By the Book, I gave a 5 out of 5 stars, but I'm like a Jasmine Guillory stan, so I feel like I'm definitely just more pulled to her books. So let's start with just If the Shoe Fits. We have Cindy, who went to Parsons School of Design. She's coming home to her stepmother to help nanny the 3 children. They're supposed to be the mice from Cinderella, but they're kids now. And Cindy's mom is the producer of this show Before Midnight, so it's very Bachelor style. And Cindy gets pulled to be on the show. The stepmother is very concerned about how the nation is going to perceive Cindy because Cindy is a bigger girl, and mostly on these shows, similar to The Bachelor, you get, you know, your standard of beauty. So the stepmom wants to protect her, but another producer, the fairy godmother in this situation, is like, no, I really want Cindy on. I think she could do really well. And when Cindy gets to the show and sees who the Bachelor, Prince Charming, is, it is someone that she had met on the plane coming back to California from New York, who they had connected with and hadn't exchanged numbers. So it's all about what their relationship looks like. And again, I feel like Cindy still talks about herself being plus size, again, in a more positive way. You overall have a more positive story than Holding Up the Universe. And I just would definitely recommend this over that. And if you like If the Shoe Fits, definitely By the Book. You have Isabel, who is working at a publishing company. She goes to a conference and then realizes she's close to the house of Beau Towers. Beau is supposed to be the Beast. Beau is supposed to write a memoir for the publishing company, and he hasn't done anything. So Isabel is really the last chance for him to write his memoir, and it's all about them working together on it. Again, the plus size representation, the romance, the diversity. I feel like this is like worlds above where Holding Up the Universe is. I feel like this is worlds better than what Holding Up the Universe is. So if you're looking for, again, more positive plus size recommendations that's not Holding Up the Universe, we have these two. I do have a little bit of a spicier book that goes along with this vibe, and that is A Merry Little Meet Cute. You'll notice that If the Shoe Fits and A Merry Little Meet Cute share Julie Murphy as an author. She is a plus size woman. I've really enjoyed all the books I've read for her. With A Merry Little Meet Cute, though, it's not just Julie Murphy writing. We also have Sierra Simone, who is writing more of the spicy scenes. So if you're looking for that more adult book with positive plus size representation, I feel like this is the book for you. This is more holiday themed. They're filming a Christmas movie. We have Bad Boy from a boy band, Nolan, who is trying to clean up his reputation. We also have the producer, Teddy, who is in charge of adult filmmaking, and he's trying to have a cleaner representation. The Teddy, who again runs adult entertainment, he accidentally slips B. Hobbs's headshot to the producer of the clean film. And B's headshot is like she does not have a top on. And the producer's like, I love her, get her for this movie. So now B, who is an adult entertainer, is coming onto this clean film, and she has to keep her identity secret and trying to help Teddy. But Nolan has been subscribed to B for like 3 years, so Nolan's a huge fan of her, and B is a huge fan of Nolan from, again, his bad boy teen days. So I feel like it is a very cute meet. I feel like it is a Merry Little Meet Cute in this situation, but don't be fooled by the cartoon cover or anything. Because of the adult entertainment content and all of that, there are some spicier scenes in this. So I feel like, again, more positive plus size representation than Holding Up the Universe, and also a little more adult than the If the Shoe Fits and By the Book recommendations. Lastly, we have Alone with You in the Ether. This book, for me, was a chore to read. This was hard to get through. We have Aldo and Reagan, who they end up meeting while Reagan's like kind of still in a relationship, and they have these like 6 conversations as strangers, but then they have more. And I'm gonna be so honest, I don't remember too much beyond the 6 conversations, because the conversations part with them talking was okay, but then it went back to like these B's and math and a bunch of theory. I don't know. So this was supposed to be, like a love story with an unexpected meeting. So I feel like I have a better book for that. This book I also feel like isn't completely set in reality. I don't know if that makes sense. So the other book that I'm recommending, I also feel like isn't, has some kind of fantastical elements to it. And that is The Dead Romantics. We follow Florence as she has to go back home for her dad's funeral. And who does she see? Her new boss named Benji, or Ben. However, her new boss has no reason to be in her hometown. So Florence realizes that he is a ghost. And so Florence has to help Ben cross over to the other side. But of course, there's complications because they have a relationship. I feel like the similarities between these two is there is a clear task in Alone with You in the Ether of the 6 conversations. There's a clear task in The Dead Romantics because we have Florence helping Ben get to the other side. So both of them are rooted in a task. Both of them are relationship filled because there's romance budding between the two. And there is a point in the book where, we have that classic like 3rd act breakup, I feel like, in both. So I think you can draw the similarities. Alone with You in the Ether, I would say, is written more in that like higher prose. I don't know. I think I'm like a decently smart human being. This made me feel dumb. With The Dead Romantics, I still feel like you're grasping tough concepts of death, not only with Ben, but with Florence having to go through death with her dad and going back to her hometown. So I still feel like there are tough concepts dealt with, but I didn't feel stupid when I was reading it. This book made me feel so dumb when I was reading it. So, and I feel like both of these are pretty big book talk books too. And so I feel like that's another connection that I draw between the two. So again, these 5 books, would not recommend. I've given you some alternatives to reading these. Let me know if you have any other alternatives to these. Again, I feel like I've only been reading for like the past 10 months, so I will definitely take any other suggestions of books that, take the vibes that are in these books that I didn't like, but elevated them, weren't as problematic, were more enjoyable reads for folks overall. Let me know what some of your least favorite books are, and maybe I'll be able to come up with a video with some recommendations of books that I feel like could be better than those. But this is what I got. I'm so glad to not hold these anymore. I'm excited to celebrate all of the books that I have talked about during this readathon. I'm excited to talk about all of these books more and more that I have recommended, because I feel like every book that I have recommended to you in this video, I gave a 4-star or higher. So you'll probably see them again on my channel at some point. Let me know what you think of any of these as well. I'm curious to see if you also liked these. I feel like On Honeymooners is not everyone's favorite, but I really haven't seen any bad takes on these two or some of the audiobooks that have been scrolling through my side here. But I'm interested to see if you've read any and if you also really liked the vibes of these books. So I hope you liked this video. I hope you have some new books to add to your TBR, and I will catch you in the next one.